week, but I am so excited. I got some rest. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. Woo, woo. So I hope that you guys will go ahead and tune in on this evening. I am so excited about the show that I have on tonight. So if you are watching, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and you share this and you start a watch party with your friends. It's going to be an amazing show. And again, like I said, when you share this, not only are you going to receive a blessing, but I believe that you're going to be a blessing to others. So if you tuned in tonight expecting to receive something great, I believe that you're going to receive exceeding abundantly above all you came expecting to receive on this evening. And if by chance you tuned in not expecting to receive anything at all, I believe that by the end of this episode, you're going to leave expecting nothing less than God's best for your life. Now, tonight I am doing something new, and I hope that it is going to work. I am also streaming on YouTube live as well. So if you know people that don't have a Facebook account, but they do have a YouTube account, make sure you tell them to go to Winning in Life Today, and they will be able to do that. So I want you guys to come on in, come on in. We're going to have an awesome time. So I want to find out from you on tonight, how many of you have ever experienced the unthinkable, the unimaginable, the unexpected? And sometimes in life, we will experience that and we will go through that. And my guest on tonight, she is going to be able to share her testimony. And with her testimony, I believe that you are going to truly be blessed. So tonight, I want to be able to introduce you to none other than Lakeisha Williams. And Facebook family, I want you guys to give it up for Lakeisha. Lakeisha, thank you so much for joining me on Facebook Live tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Lakeisha, one of the awesome things I learned about you before we actually just get into what we're going to discuss on tonight, I found out and I did some research because you told me a little bit about it, but you know how everybody is when they, want to fact check something,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go on Google.
yeah.
So, one of the things that I looked up, you owned a cupcake bakery.
Yes,
And your bakery was made famous by LeBron James. You had these special made cupcakes that were
absolutely.
specific for LeBron James. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can tell you, my husband and I, years ago, when we were college students back at Kent State University in Ohio, a quick shout out. I remember we were dating, but we weren't close enough to kind of go home with each other for the holidays. And he brought back a slice of red velvet cake. And I said, oh my gosh, we could build a business around this. Now, this was way back, 1998, 1999. And finally, years later, we went back to that recipe and built a business around it, and became affiliated with LeBron James, became one of their partners, his foundation. And we had fun. We had fun. One day they contacted me and said, we're getting ready to call you, and we want you to say yes to the question that we're going to ask. And I said, okay, I'm excited, right? It's LeBron's foundation.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to say yes. Well, they asked if we would run the marathon with them for the Akron Marathon, but not only run it, we had to like wear his name on our backs and all of that, right? We were identified as his team, right? And so you had to kind of run it well. So it was a half marathon. Back then, we still had Google, but my husband wanted to know how many miles we had to run. And I said, if we're putting in all of this work, how do we give back? And so we decided to do cupcakes, custom cupcakes for those guys. And one of my gifts is taking your business and making it different, unique, right? And so we did standard or customized cupcakes for them. The first was Just a Kid from Akron Cherry Cola. And then the second was Home Court Chocolate Chunk. And to this day, there's still a percentage that goes back to his foundation to help those kids in Akron, Ohio. So it's a sweet way to give back.
Ah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I also read that when well, not initially, but when he went back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, there was a lot of hoopla that was going on in the
Yes.
neighborhood that he lived in. and then he ordered about, was it 2,000 cupcakes from your bakery to have delivered to the neighbors,
Yeah.
and then like a
Yeah.
handwritten note.
A handwritten a written note from LeBron, Savannah, and the boys at that time, and a ton of cupcakes. I mean, we were delivering cupcakes for hours, right? And so it was a pretty amazing experience. Not only did he do that, he also gifted Prince William and Princess Kate. When they came to the States with our cupcakes and a jersey. So it's been fun.
Wow.
It's such a fun, they do a lot, man. Make a Wish Foundation, they work with them where they've delivered our cupcakes and just treated those kids who are overcoming challenges, and they do a lot. They do a lot that's not necessarily on social media, so it's just cool to
Yeah.
be a part of their team.
So I guess you can say your cupcakes are a royal treat.
Yes, yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
So, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on tonight, I noticed that you started a series or a group that's called Growing in Grief. And recently, I've been connected to a few people that have lost, a loved one. And I think it's just very important that you share your testimony, because a lot of times the testimony that we share,
Hmm.
it is a blessing to others, and it's also an avenue of being able to minister to those that maybe need to hear some comforting words or some words of growth. And one of the things that you and I talked about is how you unexpectedly lost your husband at a very young age,
Yeah.
and was left with two children to raise. So, can you kind of just, briefly, well, tell us a little bit about you and your husband before the unexpected happened?
Oh man. We met. I was 19 years old at Kent State University. Um, he had just pledged Kappa Alpha Psi, and so it was big of him to, really, settle down, if you would. I was an athlete. We had a blast. We just really connected. We started our first nonprofit when I was 19 and he was 20, and we just had a lot in common.
Mm,
There weren't any red flags, if you would. We enjoyed each other's company. We brought joy to the relationship. It was just great,
yeah.
and soon we built businesses and got degrees and all of that good stuff. It was just that sweet life. Had children, started the a home healthcare agency, the bakery, just a lot of. I mean, honestly, it was a dream, and in 2016, he suggested that we invest in life insurance. And we didn't get around to completing the application. And in 2018, I remember on a Thursday afternoon, he was perfectly fine. We went to my child's wrestling practice. It was great, right? We're coaches, we do a lot. So we were at the school all day. That Friday, he said he didn't feel well. Saturday, he woke up and said he felt worse because he didn't go to the doctor. He just wanted to kind of rest. Saturday, he got up and said that he felt worse. And within 5 hours, my husband had passed away. And
Wow.
it ended up being congestive heart failure, but one of my very close friends, Kristen Young, said, because it's tough to get over certain things, and you just question, we have done amazing work in the community, just for people, just, um, and we've always been told we have favor, and it's tough when
Yeah.
that favor has a price, and a burden that's kind of associated with it. But she said, Lakeisha, if God came to you and said, would you do it again? If I could give Jason to you for 20 years, but you knew I was going to have to take him away, would you do it again? And I would. I think the 20 years of love that we had is worth a lifetime. Like
Yeah.
it truly was a gift. And we have amazing kids. We've actually modeled as a family, and um, it was a great life. I had a great life.
So, Lakeisha, this took place in 2018 when your husband unexpectedly passed away.
Yes.
Okay.
November 2018. Yeah.
November 2018. So I know, well, no, I don't know. But I can't even imagine as a young woman how difficult that was for you. And oftentimes, there is, I guess, an emotional roller coaster that takes place. There is despair that takes place when something like that happens. How were you initially able to just get through those first few days? What type of support system did you have?
Yeah, the first few days, I mean, within a few hours, or as soon as I knew that this wasn't something simple, we have a group text, his side of the family, and I texted them, and it's like, "Oh, guys, say a prayer for Jason, as you disappeared on me. Are you still there, Nicole?" Um,
I'm
There you
still
are.
here.
Okay. I said, I contacted them and just said, please, say a prayer. Jason isn't feeling well. We thought it was just some sort of flu or whatever. We thought a Z pack, come on home, get some rest. Within a couple of days, you'll be back on your feet. And so I can't, by the time I contacted my family, it's like, oh my gosh, no, this is a big deal. I need all my prayer warriors, everyone on their knees. Like, this is something that we just really, I mean, it surprised us. The kids and I were in loungewear. We just drove him over to urgent care with the dog. Thought it was going to be a short visit and we would be out of there. And it was the complete opposite. That day, my story changed. My life was turned upside down. And so your friends, your family members, it's important to keep that circle of folks around you, because when it's time to call on them, you never know when you're going to have to, but when it's time,
Yeah,
you want them to answer. So my family was here within, by the time I left the hospital with my kids, 3 hours later, my family was here, and they live 8 hours away. So as soon as we went in to fight for his life, they hopped on the road.
yeah.
But I
So,
tell you, the community that we have, I apologize, here in Charlotte is beyond.
hmm,
The friendships that we have made, and we were intentional. We wanted to go beneath the surface with
yeah.
friendships, and the friendships that we have made is beyond what we could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in 2016, before you lost your husband, that you all talked about investing in life insurance,
Hmm.
and that you did not actually make that step. So, tell us a little bit about that, because oftentimes we do have young couples, and they don't even necessarily have to be young. You just think that, oh, we have time, we'll get to it later on, and then the unexpected happens and you never did it. So how was that, and how were you able to bounce back from that, and what, I guess, words of wisdom or advice would you give someone maybe that is married, they have children, but they do not have life insurance?
Well, I am now a financial advisor. I have my license in
Awesome.
life insurance and health. And I also cover long term care, because I know my story isn't for me. And I am unapologetically sharing it with everyone, because I do not want someone to end up in the situation we were in. The bounce back was tough.
Mm,
If not for the people God placed in my life, I'm not sure where we would be. But
yeah,
I saw his hands and feet and heart and minds working. He
yeah,
definitely has disciples, and so and they didn't hesitate. But without them, I'm not sure where we would be at this time. Now, the bounce back is, you've got to come up with a plan, and it's got to be a tight plan, because, I was a very high earner. But
hmm,
when things happen, it's so expensive. You are just kind of, and so you have to just rebuild. I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked for myself for the last 17 years now. And so I know how to rebuild, but everyone isn't in that position, right? And so it's protect your family first. If you
Yeah.
love your family, you protect your legacy. And doing that is making a phone call. If you have no clue where to start, call me, message me. I will walk you through the process. I am with an amazing company that is Christ centered, and I'm excited to be doing this work. And the bounce back just takes time. One is just keeping your family intact
Yeah.
and making sure you're pouring into them, taking care of yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, right? And so then once I got back to checking off everything and I had a good plan, then I was able to build financially. But
Yeah.
I remember one of my coaches said, make sure you are doing his work. Don't put a price tag
Mm.
on it. He's got you. So when I was at the bottom, I had to take the price tag off of everything, all of my coaching, everything, and let God have me. He had my back. He had me. And
Now,
that's
let me
where,
ask you this, not to cut you off, but one of the things that I heard you saying was that you were able to see the hands and the feet of Jesus by the different
yes.
people and family members that help you out. But sometimes, just in conversation with other people, we sometimes find it difficult to receive, or if there is a need, we find it difficult to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
Woo!
feeling shameful or letting pride get in the way. Did you
Yes.
experience any of that at all?
Oh my gosh. If you guys take away anything today, it is so important to be open to receiving. My thing was, oh, I'm good. People would ask, how is it going? I'm good. I'm good. That's what I said. And so finally, a friend, a very close friend, he said to me that my pride was going to be my most expensive overhead. Oh
Mm.
my gosh. That got me.
Let me just say that one more time. Your pride will be your most expensive overhead. What did he mean
Oh
by
my
that?
goodness. It's just your pride is going to get in the way. It's going to be expensive. It's going to cost you because blessings only they have an opportunity, a door of opportunity, right? And so when God is doing his work, how else is he going to get the work done without his
Mm.
people? Right? And so I didn't recognize that's how blessings are going to come to us. It's through his people. And so, but I just wanted to hide and figure it out on my own. And so then once I started to just focus on scripture, focus on my relationship with God, and listen to my friends saying, listen, Lakeisha, you need help. This is how we're going to help. It doesn't matter what you say. This is what we're doing, and we're going to get it done. And then I had to
Yeah.
open myself up. And then I went through a season now before my husband passed because I speak, I do a lot of inspirational speaking and things like that and coaching. One of the topics we would love to spend our evenings once we put the babies to bed and all of that good stuff. We would spend our evenings kind of settling down and talking about whatever inspirational thing we had, read for the day or whatever. And I remember him saying, babe, this is our season to ask because we've been
Mm.
planting so much. This is our season to ask. And I remember that. And so I got comfortable receiving. I wasn't comfortable
Wow.
asking, but it's sad when you aren't comfortable receiving. We knock a
Mm.
lot of blessings off because of our pride. And I didn't identify it as pride. I did not think of myself as prideful. And it's pride. Pride shows up in a lot of different ways. And
Wow.
I really had to work on that. And I still do. Even today,
Yeah,
I
and what I
still.
want to say is, so many people are, in find themselves in that situation where they may know that they have a need, and oftentimes we are like givers, like from the heart. It's like it would take nothing for us to like totally give, give, give. But when it comes to us receiving,
Yes.
sometimes we find that difficult because we don't want to seem like we're taking away from someone else that could benefit more so than we should benefit from it. So
Hmm.
what I want to say to people that may be watching on tonight, and you go through challenging times and the unexpected happens, don't be afraid to ask for what you have. Why? Because the
Yes.
Bible says you have not because you ask
Have
not.
not.
And so do not let pride get in the way. And I love that saying that you said, Lakeisha, that your pride can be your most expensive overhead. And basically, what I take that as saying is that your pride can cost you more than you know. And a lot of times, All we have to do is just ask for the help. And the Holy Spirit is like that sometimes,
Woo!
where we are struggling and struggling and
Yes,
struggling. And all we need to do is ask. And the minute we ask, Lord, I need your help, He'll
yes.
come through. Can I get a witness?
Come on, come on, come on. And a blessing is on the other side of that question mark. It's on
Yeah,
the other side, but we have to do our part. Sometimes we
yeah,
sit back and think that things are going to land in our laps. Nope. We've
yeah,
got to take the steps to get to that blessing. And it's a lesson in everything.
yeah,
And so now I am a widow. I know when someone is in those initial stages of figuring it out. Now it's a silent language that we speak. You
mm,
may not have to ask me. I know exactly what she needs.
yeah,
And so, but I can also share with her there's things you're going to have to ask for. But the number one step is receiving. Do not turn
hmm,
down a blessing, because until you're comfortable asking, people are going to give, people are going to email and text and call and say, is there something I can do? Tell them. I
yeah,
remember just such a huge, my children's school is just a phenomenal community. And we had to come up with ways for them to help. But when people want to help, allow them to be a blessing. It isn't
yeah.
fair to take that opportunity away.
Now, as we go along on tonight, I just, feel it very important that sometimes I just take a break and just kind of reiterate some things because, like I said, I want to be able to be a blessing and a help to people. And those of you that are watching right now, you may not have gone through an unexpected loss of your spouse or a loved one, but that time may come.
Hmm.
So, one point that I first want to say is make sure that you have your house in order. If you do not have life insurance on your wife or on your husband or on each other, make sure that is something that you get in place.
Yes.
Will, living will, all of that stuff, you need to have those things in place. And
Yes.
then the second thing is when the unexpected happens, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Put your pride to the side and be like, look, this is my situation, this is where I am. If you can, help me out, I will be so appreciative.
Yes.
So the next thing that I want to go to, Lakeisha, is sometimes, well, not sometimes, that's the wrong word I want to use, but when I thought about your story, I also thought about the story of what recently happened with Kobe Bryant and his wife, and how, just like you, she was a young mother and unexpectedly lost her husband, and now she has, children left to raise. But can, I guess, imagine that it must be very difficult for a wife to kind of like grieve, but then at the same time try to pull herself together enough to make sure that the children are okay. So, how were you able to navigate that situation while you were going through, grief and trying to grow through it, but yet being able to help your children and grow through it as well?
So my kids and I think I would, advise families to start that foundation now. We've always had a very spiritual foundation, and my kids, they know Christ. They have a relationship with Him. I remember when my husband passed, we had traveled to Ohio. We returned the rental car, and I was crying. And the guy was like, "Well, I hope everything was okay." And he asked if was it a vacation. I said no. My husband, we lost my husband, and my kids lost their father. And he said, "I'm sorry to hear that." We got in the car, and my daughter said, "Mommy, we didn't lose him. We know where he is."
Yeah.
And that got me. That really checked me, because we do know where he is. And so I think it's important for us to have conversations with our kids, make sure they have a relationship with Christ prior to life happening. I sit down with them I don't know, I would say once a month to check in
Mm,
and see how they're doing, how mommy's doing.
yeah.
And they would say, I said, well, what advice would you give another kid? And it's like, well, don't avoid difficult things, in life,
Hmm.
because when the big things happen, at least you kind of know how to walk through them. So we sometimes protect our kids from so many different things, but we want them to experience a lot of the different emotions so that when things happen, it doesn't take them out, right? And
Mm.
just take them to a low that they can't recover from immediately, or not even immediately, along the way. And so, but I think the advice that, I would give, it's different when your child is taken away. I said that my grief and my mother-in-law's grief, we're both grieving, but hers kind of trumped mine because she lost her child. It's a different loss, and so, um, but I do think that the children, if you have kids and you're working through grieving, um, the passing of a parent or a sibling, it's important to talk and let them talk. It's important to have good days. If Because sometimes I have looked at my kids like, why are they so joyful? Like, what?
Yeah.
I am upset, and it's okay. It's okay because they know that joy isn't coming from mommy. Joy isn't
Hmm.
coming from school. It's coming from the Lord. It's okay. You'll have enough tough days. And so we are actually in the process of finalizing a beautiful journal that should hopefully assist parents and families through things. But I think having a conversation with them, asking if you guys need a third party to come in and just kind of talk about some things that you may be struggling with.
Now,
Never sure.
did you use a grief counselor?
We did not. We did not.
Okay.
My background is in psychology, and so um, we have always believed in mental wellness.
Okay, great.
And so I think that is extremely important, especially, as a child is coming up. And so we explore those things often. And like I said, I talk to my kids about everything. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, we talk about everything. And so I can tell when my kids get in the car from school if something has happened, if they had a rough day or whatever, because usually my kids are, good to go. But we talk about everything.
Yeah.
I remember us sleeping in the same room for a good 3 months,
Mm.
after my husband passed on. So whatever it takes, but it's get emotional with them,
Mm.
it's, and you don't have to highlight everything on social media. Get emotional, just have fun, cry
So
together.
when you say get emotional with them, are you saying that it's okay for your kids to see you crying during this
Yes.
time? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now my
Yeah.
kids did come to me along the way, and I said, I remember it was like right before Christmas 2019, and I said, well, how's mommy doing, guys? How, like, are you guys good? And they said, well, you still cry a lot, mommy, and it hurts our
Mm.
feelings, right? And so I attempt to cry in my room. I will go in and go to my prayer closet or something, close the door, and cry now,
Yeah.
because I don't want to shift their moods, right? Um, but other than that, they also asked me to let family in. Oh, let family in, and or friends in, and love them like their family. My kids
Yeah.
requested that because they know I keep our circle very tight. I'm very protective, and now even more so.
Mhm.
But there are folks that really have just stepped up to the plate, and they've become our family. And
Awesome.
this is after my husband passed on, so I know it's God.
Yeah. So,
I know for a
Lakeisha,
fact.
we have a question from
Uh-huh.
Shatita Daniels, and she's asking, do you feel bad when you have bad days? I find myself feeling bad when I do, like I'm not honoring my mom. So she's asking, do you feel bad when you have bad days? And she finds herself feeling bad because she feels like she's not honoring her mom when she has those bad days.
No,
I,
you're allowed. You're allowed. And to be honest, you have about 525,000 more bad days that you're allowed to have, right? You are allowed to have those days. You're also allowed to have good days. You're also allowed to have those days where you go home and get under a blanket. It's okay. The thing is that you have to step out of it so it doesn't grab you. You don't want to invite depression to sit next to you and stay with you for the rest of the day. And so even if you have a bad day, it's okay. That's still honoring your mom. Those bad days, journal, write a letter to her, write all the things that you love about her, what you're missing, and it's okay. It's okay to experience every emotion and repeat it again and again and again. That's the thing about grief. We all grieve in a different way. I started out sprinting through every phase of grief. And then I was like, okay, am I done? Am I done? And it's like, no, go back and get closer to God and move
Wow.
through. I would
So I
suggest,
hear you say you're saying that you almost try to like rush through the process as far as just like trying to get it over with and done so that you can move on. And sometimes I think people may experience that where they're trying to suppress exactly, what they're feeling through this. And Jen, I think it's just so important because the series that you're starting is called Being Able to Grow
oh,
in Grief.
yes,
So I want to say that again, being able to grow in grief. So to Shatita and some of the other ones, Pastor Shwanda, that is, watching, you are going to have those bad days. I remember when my mom, lost her dad, my grandfather, and I think she found herself like in a stuck place where almost every day she would go to visit the gravesite and things of that nature. And I think oftentimes not only does the individual that has gone through the grief try to rush through it, but sometimes family members and friends try to rush the person through the grief.
yes,
But you can't do that because everyone, like you said, is going to go through that process in their own way and in their own time. So a question that I want to ask you is sometimes, and I'm just going to use myself for an example, when someone is going through a loss of this nature, it's difficult to find what to say. And sometimes when you try to say something to provide words of comfort, sometimes you may be messing up more than you're trying to help. So, what were some things that were said or actions that were done that you found helpful, and
yes.
then some that you did not find helpful at all?
Um, I would say my one very close friend, her son passed away in eighth grade, I believe, and everyone wanted to bring covered dishes over to our home and all of that good stuff. And I said, man, I know that I have a picky eater, I have a gluten-free child, I love it, but I don't want anyone to waste things. She said, listen, you tell people what you need, right?
Mm,
And it's okay. And they have no idea, but my kids' school fed us for months because they
yeah,
gave us gift cards and things like that, or non-perishable items, a recipe for a soup, and they included all the little ingredients in a bag. That was helpful, and so, but I want to tell people that if you don't know what to say that. Sis, I have no idea what to say. I don't want to do any harm. I just want to be here for you. And be willing to sit in silence.
mm,
Sometimes that's all it takes. You don't always have to have the words to say. You can say praying for you, not let me know if you need anything. They're not going to let you know.
mm,
What do you need? You know what I'm saying? And then we have to ask for forgiveness prior to, because I don't listen. I know that I've been moody, and my kids and I do this reset thing that's coming out soon. And but ask for forgiveness. Hey, if I'm a little grumpy today or whatever, please forgive me. But then also forgive because people are pushing you through because they want to get you to a happy place, right? That's the only reason they're pushing. In life, you should have pullers in your circles and pushers in your circles, right? And so
mm,
that person that's pushing you, they can become a little annoying, but they don't know. All they want to do is get you back to that place of joy, right?
yeah,
And they don't know how to do it. So you just simply say, listen, I need you to walk with me through this. You know what I'm saying? Be patient with me. I'm kind of
yeah,
struggling. And if you share that you're struggling, I think that's the most important part. My girl Shelly and her husband Michael, I remember them approaching us I was at a breakfast by myself, and he said, "How are you healing? And what are you struggling with? What's the most difficult part of what you're going through now?" I said, "Man, I just need my son around guys, like just hanging out with guys." It's not financial. It wasn't whatever. It was just that.
yeah.
And those guys, they came in, and that's the last time I had to ask for help with my son.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have other men in our lives, our circle of friends that totally, stepped up to the plate. I've been standing on so many shoulders, and my sisters, I feel like they have my hand and they're pulling me, and then their spouses are pushing me, because that's what we were around, couples, and I just praise God and thank God for them.
Yeah, and one thing that I admire, about you is just your spirit and your personality, and you just,
Oh,
have this very cheerful disposition about yourself. But I'm quite sure during this time, and most people will go through this when they're going through the grief process, they have the question of why.
hmm
Did you go through that period, and how were you able to grow from asking the question why? Because as a young couple, I know you guys had so many like dreams and goals that you talked about and that you wanted to accomplish. And because of the unexpectedness, of it, how did you get past that why or that despair? Or how am I going to move forward without him?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. First of all, the work I do, my why piece is what gets me up every day, right? And so you always want to know the why. And with God, I have a great relationship with my Father, right? And so He's my Lord and Savior. So I never question what He's done. It's just why us, and not even me. Why my kids?
Mm,
Man, my kids are without their dad. That is, man, that's what gets me. Oh my gosh.
mm,
So that's the tough part because I did put in the work. I made choices to ensure that my kids will have a mother and a father in a household. I believe in race. That's how I was raised, right? And so we have enough homes and households that are broken. We have enough families that are broken, and we were willing and able and totally in. Not that we didn't argue; it wasn't perfect, but we chose to fight fair and all of that. And it's like, why my family? Now, Lord, I'm not saying why not someone else. That's not what I'm saying at all. And then all of a sudden you start to grow with him and you learn, you almost thank him for choosing you and trusting you with his burden.
mm,
So don't let this opportunity um, to show
mm,
God the work that you're willing to do, don't let it go away. Like it's, and as Christians, we have to move forward. And I know that I like to lead people. I love pouring into people. That's my sweet spot. And so I had to sit in, and my girl told me, like, hey, you've got to let him know if you're willing to carry this burden. Yeah,
mm.
you're going to carry it with joy and tears in between, but you need to make a decision if you're going to carry it. And at that moment, I remember exactly where I was. So she said, so put on your red lipstick, because I'm known for like my red lipstick. She's like, so put it back on and be willing to carry this burden and share your story and go through the ups and downs of carrying it. And
Wow.
so that's the path I'm on, you know.
So we have another question from Shatita, and Shatita is saying, "I have seen two therapists. I fired them both because their mom was still alive. I felt they couldn't help me with my pain. Is that wrong or normal?"
It's absolutely normal. Your goal isn't to first of all, you need to contact me. I have great, great resources for you. It's absolutely normal. You want someone to have experienced the pain, which is why I have met so many widows in the last year and a half. I mean,
Mm,
just a ton. And I've been asked, called on to help other widows, right? Because you just got to recruit them. You got to bring them into the sisterhood, and this is kind of how you get through. My twist on things is we're going through, this world is grieving. And so the tools that I have isn't just for a spouse. It isn't just for a loved one or a human being. It's for grieving your divorce, your career. It's for high achievers that's ready to go and
yeah.
and bounce back. But it's absolutely okay to fire them, to say we aren't aligned, right?
Mm,
When you see red flags, you act. We are women and we have gut instincts. You act on
hmm.
them. I wrote a
Yeah.
book on core values, and I used to speak on that topic, encouraging women to stick to your core values.
Yeah.
Period. I have to stand up every day and keep taking steps with the weight of the world on my shoulders because I am being consistently consistent, always following my dream, always doing God's will. And so I think it's important. It isn't wrong if you want to find someone that you feel you can connect with, someone
Hmm.
that may have experienced the pain or was very close to something similar. And you may have to search a little bit for that person, but when you find them, that aha moment is amazing. I went
Yeah.
through several coaches. I am a coach, and I believe in having coaches to help you get through things, right? And so it's like my degree is in psychology. Of course, I believe in psychologists and psychiatrists. Um, and so I found, I had two coaches prior to my coach, which is someone that I am going to share with everyone that is a part of my class. Um, but when I found him, I said, "Oh no, he's the one." And actually, I still didn't like work with him. I thought I could do it on my own. And then
Yeah.
the words that he shared with me and the way, the aggressiveness that he had with me is what I needed. I didn't
And
need to
so,
just sit and talk. I needed step by step goals. What do I need to do? How do I need to achieve them? Get done.
right.
Accountability partners.
I think what you said that is very important is sometimes you need someone that understands the pain that you've gone through because they've gone through that pain and they know what it's like. And I think that's a perfect segue into your Growing in Grief series that you talk, because a lot of times ministry is birthed out of pain that someone goes through.
Yes.
And you and I were talking about your growth. Your Growing in Grief series, and how you feel like you found your purpose, like this is what you're supposed to be doing, this is like your ministry, your platform for ministry to others. So tell us a little bit about this. And another thing I just want to say, because I just think it's so awesome, a lot of times we get stuck about the ministry being in the four walls of the church, but
Yes.
with this pandemic that has taken place, we're seeing that we have to go beyond the four walls of the church, that we have to become creative, that we have to take the initiative and do things out of the box. And so one of the things that you are starting is a Growing in Grief series, where you're not only just doing it face to face, but you're starting a Facebook group
Yes.
about this to help people that are going through grief or have gone through grief. So tell us a little bit about your Growing in Grief series that you're starting.
Yes, I'm excited. So, I was supposed to launch this a few months ago. I wasn't as obedient as I was supposed to be, but it is an opportunity for high achievers to reignite, get back out there, get started again after a major setback. And so we are taking on. I haven't set the number yet because now we're virtual, so we can
Mhm.
actually share more and serve more a larger audience. But I haven't set the number yet. As soon as we set the number, we're going to move forward. It's going to start in August, and a class for men and women. But there is going to be an opportunity for you to receive coaching from all of my entire circle, my COIs, the people that I can go to. Because when my husband passed, I had to figure out a way. My coach told me to get my top 10. I had to figure out who my top 10 COIs were. And then I added a little twist was my starting five, right? And so you've got to have people in your life that's going to push you and pull you. And so I am sharing everything that I've learned over the last year and a half with everyone. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm.
I started with a love story to my husband, and just through that story, it's just so much that I've learned. And so if anyone, my sweet spot, my gift, one of my gifts, I think God has blessed me with several, but one is taking a business and twisting it, adding a twist to it to make it very unique. So if you are struggling with getting your business going because of a setback, because you're dealing with depression, or you just can't shake something, those are the folks that we're looking to work with. Also looking to work with those that are just in a slump, right? That just can't break out. We definitely want to work with them. So we are condensing everything so that it can go virtual, because the goal was to have it was going to be an entire 3 day experience. And now we are changing the format. So stay tuned. I'll be announcing that hopefully next week. So,
All
yeah.
right. Awesome. Well, make sure you let me know about that so that I can share it on my page. Because just like some of the things that you were saying, sometimes we find ourselves and we are stuck and we just don't know how to go forward or how to grow forward. And despite some of the things or unexpected things that have happens in our life, guess what? God still has a plan for us. And
Yes.
I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to just come and share your story with us, because like I said, sometimes out of pain, a great ministry is our birth. And I believe with what you're going to do with your Growing in Grief series, that you're going to touch a lot of people and you're going to help people continue to grow to be the person that God has created them to be. So it's
Yeah.
truly awesome. And I just want to say that Tracy Flex has definitely been a great help with me, such a huge blessing. So the
Now
time
that's
always,
my now he is one of the best trainers. If you are looking to kind of get out of a slump physically, contact him. He's tough, but he's great.
okay, awesome. So the time always goes by so fast,
So,
Lakeisha. So one of the things that I would like to say is before you get ready to go, and I was going to say what words of comfort, but sometimes I think that words of comfort, because sometimes when you're going through a situation like that, there are no words that can really comfort you. So what words of growth could you leave with someone that may be going through the grieving process right now?
um, allow others in. Allow others in. You aren't meant. You weren't designed. You weren't created to do this alone. So allow family members, loved ones, friends, especially those that you did not expect. God has already placed cheerleaders in your path, those that your shoulders that you are to stand on, ladies that are to lift you. They're already in your path. You just have to be open to allowing them to come in and do God's work. And then if and pour into someone else sooner than you think you're prepared to do so. I think helping others gets you out of your story, right? And so I quickly learned. I mean, I worked for Charlotte Mecklenburg City Schools, and the stories I heard from babes, right? Man, allowed me to continue to do God's work. And
Mhm.
yes, I've struggled. It's been a huge challenge and a great loss, but I am in a position to step back up and lead. But pour into others, and you'll really be able to put your story in a perspective. So
Awesome. Again, thank you so
thank
much for sharing
you.
with us on tonight. So I'm going to ask that you hold on as I get ready to close out, okay?
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, Facebook family. Again, thank you so much for tuning in tonight with me on Facebook Live. I hope that you were truly blessed by the words that you heard from Lakeisha Williams. Again, an awesome story, an awesome testimony. And don't forget about her growth in series. Um, Not her growth in series, but her Growing in Grief series that she is getting ready to start. So, some of the things that she talked about is, first, make sure that you have your house in order. If you do not have life insurance right now, if you do not have a will, make sure that you get those things in place. And then again, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. You have not because you ask not. There are so many people out there that will be willing to help you out, but sometimes they just don't know what you need. But if you let them know, they'll be right there to make sure that you have everything that you need, because you will not go lacking or missing anything. And that's just the Christian way, and that's the way that we do things. Another thing she said is, if you have children right now, you never know when the unexpected is going to happen. Make sure you teach them, make sure you train them in the word of God. Because guess what? Just like Lakeisha said, you never know. Your child may be the one that's able to minister to you and pull you out of a rut that you may be in for that particular day. And then finally, if you are someone that is trying to support someone that is going through the grieving process, sometimes you don't need to say anything at all, but just be there. If it's just sitting in silence, to let them know that, hey, I'm here with you. I'm here as much as you need me, and I'm here as little as you need me. And then finally, I want to leave you with this thought. I had a conversation with my grandmother earlier this week, and most of you know that I always talk about my Nana. She's 92 years old. At the age of 90, she wrote a book, and she told me this week that she started working on her second book at 92 years old. And she was letting me know about some of the different titles that she was thinking about having for her book. And this one phrase that she told me about, it really caught me, and I really had to think about it. She said, Nikki, sometimes you cannot direct or control the winds, but what you can do is adjust your sails. I want to say that to you again. Sometimes you have no control of how the wind is going to blow in your life. But one way that you are able to grow through it is if you're willing to adjust your sails. And if you adjust your sails, I believe that you will still be able to flow in the vein that God has for you. Let nothing stop you. Let nothing block you. Continue to go forward in all of the blessings that God has for you. So I hope you guys are going to leave this episode tonight expecting nothing less than God's best for your life. So I'm going to close it out the way I always do, and that is by singing the Winning in Life Declaration. If you're ready for it, let's do it on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. We're winning in life today. Great things are coming our way. We're winning in life today. Peace, God bless, and I'll see you next time.